aggressive and entrepreneur from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, Real Truth listeners. Today I have Jon Fields, San Diego-based realtor, a buddy of mine, known for a couple years, at least 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, decade. Yeah. So yeah, it's good to have you on the platform today.
Thanks for having me, man. It's only one of the first podcasts I've ever done.
First of many. All right. So you classify yourself as a solo agent, right?
I do, for sure. Yeah. So it's just me and my transaction coordinator. I kind of probably decided that there was maybe a fork in the road a handful of years ago where I was kind of approaching being busy enough to take it one way or the other if I wanted to start trying to add people onto my team, so to speak, or just doing it myself. And this is the route that I've chosen to stick with. Just makes more sense for kind of what my goals are, at least.
You've been in business, what, 10 years, yeah?
About 11. I think I'm on my 12th right now. But yeah, I got licensed in 2012, sold my first properties in 2013, and then just kept going from there.
So one of the unique things I think about Jon is your dad and mom were in the business, right?
Yeah, so my dad was in the business for a bunch of years. He owned a franchise of Century 21 in the 90s. And then he ended up merging it with our KW office, 10 or so years ago, when he no longer wanted to have that company. He was also still in the escrow business. So he's still, he's a partner in an escrow company out in El Cajon. So then my stepmom, actually, she's a TC. She just retired actually after like 40 years of TCing files. So she was my TC for my entire career up until about a month ago.
So growing up, did you have aspirations to jump into the real estate field?
Zero, not even a thought in my mind. And I don't think it was when I first told my dad I wanted to get into it, he wasn't like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you want to follow in my footsteps." He's like, "You just went to college. What are we doing here?" So no, I definitely did not have aspirations to do it. But when I was in college and about to be graduating, I figured I got a degree in psychology and a minor in marketing. And I knew I was like headed to get into some sort of sales career. So I decided that I said, why not try this out and see what kind of a fit this is? Because obviously the working for myself and setting my own schedule, all the typical stuff that people talk about when they get into reasons they get into real estate was intriguing to me when I was 22 years old. So I gave it a shot and ended up thankfully being a really good fit. And I haven't had any other careers or jobs after I graduated from college in 2012.
So before you got into real estate, and at that time, your dad and your mom were together before you got into real estate?
No. So my parents divorced when I was 6 years old, and my stepmom and my dad got together when I was really young. I was maybe just a couple years after that. They've been married for, I don't know, 20 plus years or something now, I think.
So before you got into real estate, what was the interpretation of real estate? Was it like, okay, my dad's making a lot of money, my mom, they're like, I mean, what was that thought of it?
Yeah, I think it was, I saw it supported our real estate business, supported our family. My mom was a nurse. Because remember, it was my stepmom that was the TC, but my mom was a nurse, so she had a great job. And then my dad being in the real estate business, it supported our family and gave a really good life growing up. But I also saw the ups and downs of it big time, especially when the market crashed in 2006, 7, those years. So I definitely saw both sides of it, and I also saw how time consuming it was, and that it was very hard a really hard business to shut off, like.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, so like when you jumped into it, I know you said that you got graduated from college, and now you're thinking about, okay, well, I'm gonna just do this. I'm gonna be some kind of sales star right there. I mean, yeah. Knowing that you see what happened to your dad about all the time that he put into it, the ups and downs with it. were any thoughts of going, okay, maybe I'll get into the lending business, or maybe I'll get into another thing of sales, or was it just like, I'm going to give it a 6 months and try it out? Or like, what was it
Yeah,
like? Yeah.
it was more that I didn't, the reality and the honest answer is that I didn't know what the hell I was going to do when
Yeah.
I
No,
graduated.
for sure.
I had no idea. Like I was
Yeah.
like, what am I going to do? And I was going to these job fairs I went to Chico State in Northern California, and went to these job fairs that, it's like start out making 40 grand a year, start out making 50 grand a year. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Like that, if I could land one of those. And then I decided that I didn't want to jump right into that kind of thing yet. And for whatever reason, I remember during my finals in my senior year, I was studying for my real estate exam rather than my finals. Cause I was like, if I just pass these, these finals aren't going to bring my GPA up to something respectable. So why don't I just focus on I'm going to pass and get my degree. But so focus on something I actually wanted to do and was interested in, was getting my real estate license. So I had that right after I graduated. And I think I just saw that I knew there was opportunity there. Particularly at that age, I was thinking about the income opportunity. I was thinking like, oh, wow, I could go this route to like a corporation and get into some sort of sales or maybe some sort of admin management position and work my way up from there. But it just sounded boring to me. If I'm being honest, it sounded really, really boring. And it sounded like a rut that I didn't want to get myself in. So thankfully this worked out, because the jobs I had growing up when I had summer jobs, I was the worst employee, the worst.
Just
I was
bad at
just,
taking the feedback and
not bad at taking feedback. I think I was just, when I was working for other people, I was lazy, I think. Especially, I mean, I was also 19 years old. I just didn't, these weren't jobs I really cared about a lot. But it's just the kind of eat what you kill part of real estate, like the part where it can be as good as you set it up for it to be, was what kind of keeps me motivated. And I can't imagine now, having done this long, not having that. I totally get the security of a more like of a real job, but I don't want it right now. That's
do you, I mean, was there a moment, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer because we've kind of talked about this already, but like I would think that if my father was in real estate, had an escrow company, that he's gonna throw me some low hanging fruit, and I'm gonna get some deals right there.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure you told me that never really happened to you. But what was your thought originally when did you think that at all, that hey, he's gonna hook me up?
No, because I knew like in what capacity he was in the business at that point, and he was a broker of an office like Robert is of ours, so he wasn't heavily involved in his own sales. He was overseeing other people's sales. So I knew that it wasn't an active sales business that he had going on where I was going to jump in on that and help. I knew the value that he was going to provide, which was a crazy amount when I first started, was the learning the contracts and the process and just how to do the business. That was a huge leg up that I had with my dad being in it and for that long. But yeah, it was, I think when you first start and people know that your dad's doing it, they think like, oh, wow, it's like, wow, the golden spoon. It's like, I wish, but no, not quite.
I mean, and you probably, I mean, I would assume have some haters, right, that are thinking that you're getting this golden spoon, and then you kind of almost have to like talk them out of that idea.
Were you a hater?
I mean, in the business, especially when you're newer in the business, right? And like one of the crazy stats, and we're recording right now in 2024, right? But like 72% of realtors didn't sell one piece of business, right? So you have people that in bad times aren't selling business.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes easier to go, well, the only reason that person got that deal was because this or that. Or, I mean, did you ever feel that or no?
I've even done it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Have I felt that from other people? Yeah. I think more when I first started, and I really stopped. I didn't like it. It wasn't something that weighed on my mind. I knew the reality of it was that I wasn't. And by the way, if you are getting that, that's great too. Like just because,
you use what you can use.
Just because somebody has, if you have in any business, you get into it because there's a family member in it. and you're able to learn quickly and have some built-in business, there's nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't the situation. And I don't know. I think people that got to know me kind of knew that pretty quickly too, and I just didn't really pay much attention to anything
So were
else.
you confident in, I guess, who you are that you didn't like, I mean, care what those outliers thought of you? Or so like you separated yourself? 'Cause I see some people that separate themselves from who they might think is giving them like business, or
Sure.
and so they try to build their own name. Did you try to do that, or you just, hey,
No,
I
I
know
just
the
knew
truth?
it was peace of mind enough for me to know where it
Gotcha.
was coming from. And then I just was like, I don't have to prove that it's not. Like, what am I doing here? I need to, that's going to take away from my focus on actually building my own thing um, and having business of my own. So now it really, I think it didn't end up being as much of a thing as I thought it might have been when I first started. I remember really thinking I didn't want people in the office to think that I was just being fed this. But
Mm.
that kind of after the first, however long couple of years, I had enough confidence on my own to just know that it was my own thing that I was building with a lot of help um, in terms of like support and contractual type of stuff from my dad. And that was great. That was great support. But there was no better way for me to learn the business than having to go out and get my own clients. I don't think I wouldn't be able to prospect uh, to the level that I've learned to, I guess, if it was all just being fed to me. So it was the best thing for me to not have that, but also the best thing to have that him in that support role while I was learning the business.
Where do you think that confidence came from? Was it like internally? Was there a moment, or just simply, hey, I'm closing business and now I'm getting more
Yeah,
confident as I go?
exactly. I think it was just doing the business and learning it and closing transactions and you know how it is. You get more the more you're involved in it on the day-to-day basis, the more you understand it and you feel confident in the process and confident that you know how to handle issues that come up and confident that you can replicate it. One of the biggest things for me is like even still to this day is at the end of each year, if I've had a what I feel like is a good year for me, I always have the thought. It's like, okay, great. Can I do that again? Like,
Mm.
because you don't. It's not just like, oh, this is what you earn now. This is your salary. It's that database has to be constantly communicated with and fed, and it's it doesn't just. But that's also the fun part. It can also be the fun part about it.
No, for sure. I mean, it's not like the insurance business. I sometimes I talk to like insurance people I know. It's like, oh yeah, no, I every year just gets consistently. I keep rolling that in and it just gets bigger and bigger. And like
Yeah,
real estate for the most
it
part.
can ebb and flow a little bit more. Although insurance industry in California right now, I don't know, doesn't sound that great.
No, no. Eh,
Homeowners insurance, at least.
Talking about like something not being great, when you look back at your 12 years or so, I mean, what do you think have been like the biggest struggles, hurdles that you've kind of had to work through?
Um, I would say, kind of going back to what I said at the beginning, shutting it off. And still, I have times where I'm better at it than others, and times where I really suck at it. And right now, I'm really sucking at it. um, setting proper boundaries so that you're not so that your work and family time doesn't do this. I'm doing that right now, and I'm having to get it in check again. That's the to me the hardest part about it. And then also, all the hours that you do put in without seeing a paycheck. Um, and then the payoff can be great. Obviously, that's why I've stuck with this business is like the opportunity that's out there, not just financially, but just constantly learning and constantly having every transaction brings something new. It's not boring. But yeah, the time management can be to me is the toughest thing. And you go on vacation, all of a sudden you're getting busy as hell. And that's part of being if you're a solo agent, you go on vacation, that can be tough because you don't have a lot of support left behind, to pick up the slack so that you have to really set expectations of yourself and expectations with your clients when you're doing that sort of thing. So that's really important. It can be difficult.
You said that when you first started, you kind of bounced ideas off your father. Now that you've been in the business for 12 years, I mean, who do you bounce ideas off of? Like, okay, hey, how can I tell my clients that I need to separate basically life and work, or how do I do this, or how do I do this? I mean, who are you bouncing ideas off these
I
days?
mean, I still have conversations with him here and there about a particular situation that comes up in a deal or what have you. But for the most part, after doing it this long, I feel very confident in like I can handle most situations that have come at me by just taking a step back, assessing it, and doing what I think is best. I don't have to do right now, at least. I haven't had anything um, in recent months that's required me to go to somebody and really be like, okay, I need some help here. If there's a broker related issue, like a transaction issue, then sure, I'll go to our broker. But for how to like work, like handle clients or bounce something off, bounce an idea off somebody, I've kind of gotten to a place where I feel confident enough in my decision making where I don't have to do that a ton.
Looking, I guess, at your history, has there been like moments where you're like, okay, maybe this is not the right field for you? Or I know you
Yeah,
talked about every year. You're like,
yeah,
oh,
about twice a week.
so what keeps you in the business?
um, keeps me in the business.
Strictly the money?
That's what I was going to say, but no, not it's not only it's not only financial because it can drive you crazy too. Um, I think just like it being like the honest answer is it's the only thing I've known in my adult life
Mm.
is selling real estate and this business. So, and I enjoy it for the most part. I know I'm very lucky to enjoy what I do. There's a lot of people out there that Monday comes around and it's a real drag, and I don't have that. So it's really, really cool to excuse me, honestly be able to say like on a Monday morning that I'm happy, I'm stoked. Yeah, like it's all good. So
Well,
that feeling of enjoying what I do is kind of it.
you said that like each transaction is different. You mean, but you kind of have an idea of everything. I mean, is there a particular thing that gets you excited about your Monday morning?
I think it just goes back to the opportunity and that you sometimes don't know what a week's going to bring or what a conversation is going to bring. Um, everything can change with not every that's dramatic, but like your week can change your month can change with a particular conversation with a past client or them sending you somebody that they care about to for you to work with, and then you wow them and you get more referrals from them, and it's just like there's just so many things that can unfold depending on how much work that you put in. And a lot of the work doesn't really feel like as much work as it does just feel like talking to people and being in relationship with people. And when you have the trust of a lot of people, all your past clients, um, cool things can happen in business in terms of um, what they throw your way and how you can also help them too. So I think that unknown is kind of what is exciting to me.
Are you naturally a social butterfly?
Not really. I'd say like so. I'm not. I can be, but I prefer like a weekend night at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I like hanging out in small groups. I have a close group of friends. I like doing that. But no, I wouldn't like you know me. I don't go to I avoid networking things like
Yeah.
the plague. I'm terrible with that. Um, yeah, I'd say it's a good middle ground. Like my database in real estate, I keep it really small, um, rather than there's no right way to do it, but the way I've chosen to do is it's everyone that I've worked with, that I've closed deals with, and then my personal database is in there as well of just like friends, family, that sort of thing, and that's it. It's not people that somebody I met once over here and that I keep trying to stay in touch with them. I keep it. It's like three. It's like 350 right now, and I just keep in reasonably close contact with those people about 4 times a year at least.
Do you enjoy all 350, or some of them more difficult than others, I guess?
Of course, some are more difficult than others. It's not so much that I enjoy, although most of my past clients and people I work with are really cool.
Yeah.
Um, it's just that to me, that's more manageable. And my goal is to have a business that's warm referrals. Like that's what I think that's most people's goals, but how people get business is different. There's cold calling, there's door knocking, every which way you want to do it. But the way I enjoy it most is getting warm referrals from people who trust me. And the best way I've found to do that is keep it small and keep in communication with those people. Whether it's through social media, calls, texts, emails, a newsletter that I send out, just staying in front of them and letting them know. Not every time that you check in needs to be asking. You don't need you just ask them for referrals. You check in on them. You say, hey, haven't been a few months since we talked. Anything you need done around the house? I have a list of contractors that I work with personally. Happy to send them your way. The
Is
real
there
estate conversations come on their own.
is there a moment in real estate? It could be funny, it could be touching, it could be whatever. If like someone's listening right now and they're just getting into the real estate field, or thinking about getting into the real estate field, that would
Gosh.
kind of give them a glimpse into real estate life.
God, honestly, I have so many, and they're like literally all escaping me right now. I have a lot of. There's been I might have to think on that one to see what pops in my head.
I mean, talking to a buddy that we would know, we know, and they were doing a open house. I mean, I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast. They were doing an open house, and they open the blinds, and they go to the backyard, and they're opening the blinds, and they see a homeless person taking a poop in the backyard, and that was like the thing. And I was like, oh, that's definitely, I can see that happening in real estate right there.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just been so many. There's been so many things over the years. I'm trying to even pick out one of them. Come back to me on that.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll be one of the last questions to
Okay.
get everyone excited about. So if we
There
were,
was
let's say,
one this
talking
year.
if we were talking in 5 years from now, do you have like a 5-year goal plan? I mean, aspirations, maybe a team, anything else you think you're gonna kind of get into?
That's another thing I'm really bad at is making is making plans 5 years out. You know
We'll
what?
go a year out if you need to.
Um, I think a year out, my time management not my time management, my boundary setting for myself between like personal and business life is better, significantly better. I need to actually make a plan for that. In all honesty, if things are a year from now, and there's going to be a lot of changes coming up in the real estate industry, like but if in a year from now things are exactly like they are today, I'm not one of the people that's like, I aspire to, I need to make $5 million. I need to make $1 million. Like I don't, I'm money motivated to an extent. But I have a life that I enjoy, and I'm good if this is how it is in a year.
Do you have any aspirations to like father your father's footsteps?
Do you have any?
Any aspiration to like follow like in like the escrow company, or get
No.
affiliated with like a title, or
Nope. I want to just keep it simple. Stay with what I know, which is selling real estate. I don't need to complicate it with other things. I'm not interested in owning a company. I'm not interested in being the head of a company. I'm interested in being the head of my own little real estate business that I run. But my aspirations is to keep it going and keep growing what I have here in terms of, there's always, I always have goals of, unit count and increasing that. But that's really at this moment, and for the next probably handful of years, that's really it. After that, if you ask me when I'm in my 40s, then there's going to need to be a plan of how I avoid selling houses into my 60s, because I really don't want to do that. So an exit strategy would be the next thing, and I don't have that yet.
Yeah, it seems like there's a good amount of realtors that don't have the exit strategy. I mean, I remember
most don't. I think we're notoriously not that great at business people.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're just kind of like, doing that commission check to commission check thing, and it's really easy to do. Especially here in San Diego, everything's so expensive, and you're just like, you can earn a great living and still feel like you're like, this doesn't quite cover it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I was doing the numbers the other day, and we're in right now talking in June, and the what is it? The median detached price was a little under 1.1, but the average price for detached homes was 1.4. I was like, damn, that is crazy in San Diego County.
You can see why it's discouraging for a lot of people, but it is what it is.
There's one thing that, and I mean, I don't think about it as much, but it's something that I thought about when I was younger in the business, whatever. And I'm curious about your perspective on it, is the interpretation of a realtor. I mean, I think if you asked people to describe a realtor, maybe 100 people, I'd say there's probably a third, maybe, I don't know what the number would be, that have negative ideas towards realtors. What's your thought, or what's your perception of how people perceive realtors?
Sorry, you froze up. Can you repeat the last sentence?
Oh yeah. What's your interpretation, or what's your idea of how people perceive realtors?
Not great. So actually, that's a really good question, because one of my goals when like just in my business in general is to do everything I can with every client that I work with to change so that when they're done working with me, they have their perception of my profession is changed in some way, hopefully for the better. That is obviously the goals, and I think I'm successful in doing that most of the time. I think I know the public's opinion of our business. It's there's a very low barrier of entry. You know how it is. You're getting your real estate license isn't a super difficult task, and doesn't require a college degree. And because of that, there's a lot of really great agents out there, and it also brings in some not so great agents that are not interested in really making it not interested in really making it a focus of theirs, but rather a hobby. And to each their own. I don't think it does a big service to our industry for that to be the case, but again, everyone's got to do their own thing. I think that obviously brings the professionalism of the industry down a lot of it. And it causes the public to see us as sometimes glorified door openers, sometimes overpaid, and that sort of thing. So I think that, and rightfully so, I think in a lot of cases, if you're somebody who sells a house every 2 years, and you don't know the latest and greatest that's going on in terms of forms and new procedures and how things are done, you can easily leave a bad taste in a client's mouth. Hopefully people are doing enough research to, for the biggest sale or purchase of most people's lives, that they don't get involved with somebody who's not going to take incredible care of them, but it happens. So I think a lot of that has led to our how the public looks at us negatively in a lot of cases. But I think that at least for my tight-knit group of people that I've had the pleasure of working with and still do, I think they have a different opinion. I'm confident that they do.
So, at least to your face.
What was that? At least to behind my back. I don't care what they say behind my back. Just be nice to me and then keep using me.
If you were giving advice to a young agent or someone trying to get into the business, is there like something you'd give them? What'd you say?
I said, don't. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding.
Or I mean, or maybe it's not even just someone looking to get into the business, but something that was in your shoes before. They're getting out of college, they're looking for a sales position. I mean, debating on getting into real estate, maybe into lending, into title, whatever it is. I mean, is there any kind of thoughts or something they should think about, I guess, before they make a decision?
Yeah, there's a lot. Well, it depends. All those things are so different. I mean, the closest to would maybe, in terms of the way you get paid, would maybe be being a loan officer or a real estate agent. I think that depends what age, like what your financial situation is when you get into it, but you definitely should have reserves to get yourself through the first half a year or so, don't go into it with $0 and 0 cents in your bank account. I was able to do that because I was 22, I was living at home.
Mm.
But that's kind of a freak situation. But yeah, getting it, it's a tough, it's starting your own business. Just
Yeah.
like any other, the beauty of real estate is your overhead can be very, very low. That's the really nice thing. You can run a very, very profitable business. And that's part of the reason that I have chosen to not start adding people to my team, is because I like, being really profitable and keeping it simple. It doesn't work for everybody. It's not everyone's route. But for me, that's what I liked about it. But for sure, I think the advice would be have a little nest egg, hopefully, so that you are not under the gun to, I mean, it's good to be under the gun to motivate you to a certain extent, but I think you can expect when you get into it. Some people close deals right away. It took me 6 months to close my first place. I think that's fairly common. So really think about, are you ready to work for yourself and not have somebody? I have friends that still ask me now, like, "Oh, are you working this Friday?" And I'm like, "How long have you known me?" Like, I yes, but like nobody comes and calls me and asks me, "Are you working?" Like, I don't clock in anywhere. Like, if you need if you need structure, somebody to give you structure, real estate's a tough one, because nobody's going to give you structure except yourself. You have to build that structure in. And maybe if you're on a team, if you're on a big team, and you're a member on that team, maybe they provide some sort of structure for you. But even at that point, you're still an independent contractor at the end of the day.
I mean, I tell my wife all the time, or someone asks me, "Hey, can we do this?" I go, "Well, I gotta talk to the boss." I mean, I always try to keep myself in the third person, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's
smart.
like, okay, I have to do this. This is my
Well,
thing. And like,
absolutely, I can do it. That's the problem. Yeah,
yeah.
I can do it. Yeah, I can do it whenever.
If someone's listening right now, when they're basically maybe looking for some San Diego real estate help, or they're looking to get into the business, and they're just kind of curious about other thoughts or maybe guidance you can give, what's the best way on the reaching you?
The old cell phone.
You want to give your number out?
I do have a cell phone, believe it or not.
And it
619.
takes text messages too.
Yeah, it takes text messages. T9 619-218-9701 is the best way to reach me. If you're thinking about getting into real estate, KW, I've been there for almost 11 years now, and you're not going to find a whole lot better training than that. So a lot of the reason I've stuck around this long is because it's just a solid place to be. So
Before we get into the story that he's going to tell us, it's going to be so riveting because he's had about 15 minutes to really
yeah,
think about it.
yeah.
Just want to say we do have a sponsor, Melody Cloud. So if you're looking for relaxed music, go in the show notes, go find Melody Cloud. Also, too, if you're listening to this and you're looking to get into a business, start a business, I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast. And if there's a person that I've interviewed in the past that you think would be able to help you out for guidance, most of the people I talk to are willing to talk to you and help you out. So if there's someone that you've heard before that you think would help you out, or it's a field that you want to get into, please reach out. My information is in the show notes, and I can connect you to them. And most of the people are going to be willing to help you out and give you guidance. Okay, now because all that build up, John, what's the story?
I'll tell you the very first one that happened. Like, I'm talking, because I know I had a bunch recently too, but this one always just stands out in my mind. When I first started, it was one of my first listings, and it was an elderly woman whose son was helping her. I was communicating with him a lot, and I was working with him and her to get the house on the market and get it sold. And the house was just in her name. And we got the listing. We are on the market. I show up for the first open house on a Saturday or a Sunday. I can't remember. I didn't realize that at the time. I was just talking to the son, working with the woman who was selling it, his mom. I didn't realize that there was like 3 other sisters. There's 3 other sisters involved who apparently all lived in the house at the time. Didn't know that. So I showed up to the open house, and all 3 of them sat on the couch like this for my whole open house. they brought in some food. They were just eating food in the middle of it. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to be here for a couple hours. If you could go maybe. And they were like, wouldn't even talk to me. They just sat there and mean mugged every single person that walked through the open house. And I lasted about, I don't know, a half hour, 45 minutes before I just found the closest piece of paper. I wrote open house canceled, found some tape, slapped that thing on the door, and just ran for my life. I was like, get me out of here. Still sold the house.
Oh, it did.
But they were not thrilled. It was not their house, though. Their mom wanted to sell it. Sucks, but
you know what? It's so wild when real estate's involved. I mean, because you see it so many times where it's like the mom wants to sell it, or this person wants to sell, and the person living there, and you have to almost be like a kind of a mediator a little bit. Like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And
that's a big part of the role, is mediating, especially everything's a lot of things that you're dealing with are just family situations, and you got to know how to. Or the husband and wife have different opinions on things, and you got to just know how to cater to both of them and speak to both of them so that everyone feels heard and try to get them all on the same page. And that one,
sometimes you want to shake them too, and you're like, I can't do this. I can't physically shake these people, but I really want to.
Can't shake them.
Well, thank you, John, for being here. Hopefully, everyone listening got some great information. Please go in the show notes. Go find John, follow him on his social media stuff. Also follow the podcast. And then if you just have time and have some random question in your head, John gave his phone number out. Just shoot him a text. Don't even put your name or anything. Just shoot him a text. He'll always appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Have a great one. Bye.
Thanks, Vinny. Appreciate it.